an interesting thing, I think, to look at the last 2 years and to look at it through a spectrum. And this spectrum I'd like to think about just for a second is the absolute primacy of the virtual world. Now, I know I'm coming to you over Zoom this morning, but it's become the new normal. Now, for years now, we've been talking about this new normal and what does that mean? And I'd like to suggest that there's nothing normal about it at all.
Absolutely agree with that. Unfortunately, during COVID, we had to resort to Zooms and Teams meetings and what have you, but I had hoped that we would be able to leave that behind, but I haven't seen much evidence of it being left behind totally. And I think that's the issue that's coming to the fore, Father Matthew.
It is. And I also think the one thing that people aren't talking about is the assumption that everybody has access to a good internet connection. There are lots of older people, there are lots of younger people who don't have any access at all. So what are we doing? What are we doing for them? It's all very well and wonderful that we can connect with people online. It's a great, wonderful technology. And, my church, we live stream our services. It's great. And it's a really great thing, but not to the detriment of actually spending time and seeing and interacting with people, which as a Christian is at the heart of the Christian faith. The Christian faith is about God becoming man to dwell with us on earth in a tangible, physical way. And that what we are as the body of Christ on earth, the church, we're called to be together. Now, of course, we couldn't be together, but now we're able to. I'd just like to suggest that perhaps we might like to spend a little bit more time thinking about how we can actually go out and meet and help people in a truly physical way without relying on the last 2 years of what we've come to see as a completely virtual world, really.
And your second topic that you wanted to discuss today is also in a church, and that, of course, is the beautiful memorial that we witnessed for His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh. It
was amazing, wasn't it? I mean, just incredible to see it. My background before being ordained was as a military musician, so a lot of my friends were there playing. So that was great to see all this stuff happening again. The great pomp and pageantry that only we can do and do well. So that was wonderful to see. But I think really that the one thing that struck me is the one thing that people aren't talking about. There's been a lot of media attention and very negative press about Prince Andrew's role in the service. Now, all of us know the allegations and the awfulness of what surrounded all of that over the last few years. But I'd like to suggest one thing, and that's that Her Majesty is the Supreme Governor of the Church of England. She's a deeply Christian woman. And I think what she did in having her son walk her and accompany her to her place on that service was one of the most profound examples of Christian leadership I've ever seen. It was absolutely amazing. The gospel reading from last Sunday was that of the prodigal son. And we saw that live in action, actually happening. Somebody, now, of course, none of us know whether Her Majesty has forgiven Prince Andrew in a massive way. That's not for us to know. That's between her and her family and God. But purely from a visceral point of view, just to see him there holding his mother was just such a profound thing. We talk so much, don't we, about being angry with people and being cross and being resentful. I mean, we only need to look at what happened at the Oscars this week and how the people who were in the theatre all stood up and applauded Will Smith for this act of violence. I mean, and then at the other end, we see Her Majesty doing something that she would have really thought about, as she's done for 70 years now, and once again shown us what it is to be a true Christian leader, or indeed to be a true Christian. The ability to forgive is, of course, the most important Christian principle. So I was deeply, deeply moved by it, and a little sad that not many people have really, not more than a little sad actually, that not many people have really touched on it.
And staying with the theme of where we are at the moment and looking forward a few weeks, you wanted to talk about Easter.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, being a priest, Easter is, of course, the most important thing of the Christian faith. Holy Week, the week which precedes Easter, is the most difficult week, because we come to terms absolutely with the death of Jesus and then with his resurrection. And it's interesting, isn't it, how our world, our secularized world, will talk so much about Christmas. So much about, what are you doing for Christmas? Oh, I might go to church for Christmas, or I might have all my family and friends over for Christmas and buy them lots of presents. But you ask them what they're doing for Easter, maybe they might go skiing, or they might do something else. They might go to Centre Parks, or whatever. But I'm pretty sure not many people will gather around in the same way that they do at Christmas as they do at Easter. And I mean, I would dare to say people who consider themselves to be Christians as well. Our world has become so secularized that the Christian faith seems to, or people in the Christian faith seem to think that Christmas is where it's all at, and it's not. Easter is the big thing. It's the most important thing, as I say, and it's the one thing that I don't think the world has quite got its head around. I'm not quite sure that's a bad thing in some respects. We all know about Father Christmas, don't we? We all know about the Easter Bunny, but I mean, what does the Easter Bunny do, allegedly? What do we do at Easter? We eat chocolate. Other than that, what do we do? Yeah, there's a whole raft of stuff surrounding Christmas. So I'd just like to suggest that perhaps if you are a Christian, or even if you're not, especially if you're not, actually, will be just over the next week or two, just to look into the story of Easter and the importance that the Christians place on the resurrection of Jesus and why that's so important to us. And then perhaps we might see a tiny shift in how people tend to think about Easter, because, as I keep saying, it is just the most important time of the year for people, and we need to make sure that people know that, and they're able and should be thinking about gathering together and doing things with their families. All these things that we couldn't do, that we started off talking about. This is the time to really, really celebrate if you're a Christian at Easter, because you go through the heart of pain of Good Friday, of the cross, and you have this wonderful being the correct word, roller coaster of emotion that Holy Week gives. And then, of course, you have the empty tomb at Easter.